public project that affected my development as an architect was really Faneuil Hall Marketplace. I was at Benjamin Thompson Associates at the time when the city realized that the markets that they had owned for many, many years, the public markets, had fallen into disrepair and disuse, and the buildings were essentially abandoned, and the thought was that they would be demolished. The mayor at the time, Kevin White, had a different vision, along with the Boston Redevelopment Authority, that they thought it would be best to restore the shells of the buildings and enter into a lease with the Rouse Company for 99 years to develop what is now called the Festival Marketplace. Faneuil Hall Marketplace taught me many, many lessons of how to create an intimate outdoor space, how to have buildings and architecture become meaningful for a variety of different kinds of people, and how to become an important part of a community. So Faneuil Hall consisted of 3 buildings. There was the North Market, the South Market, and Quincy Market, which was basically the original marketplace. I was fortunate enough to be part of the firm that was retained to work with the Rouse Company to reimagine Faneuil Hall. The spaces between the buildings became more important in many ways than the buildings themselves. So these spaces was critical to how to animate a space. And that at the same token, what we did on Quincy Market was introduce the idea of these glass greenhouses with garage doors that could open up in the summertime, and that the dialogue between the building and the spaces became one. And then the other challenge was, how do you draw people through these buildings and create meaningful experiences, both from a retail point of view and a food point of view, and also a destination point of view. So we were able to then develop a hierarchy of paving patterns and spaces that are linked in this wonderful alley of spaces that were merchandised and programmed 365 days a year, day and night, all the seasons. We created the idea of push carts that could be selling wares under the greenhouse that in nice weather might be brought outside. We created exterior events along the way. So we might have a podium where you might have a bunch of jugglers or singers doing something in the summer. You might have Christmas carolers in the wintertime. And that we created canopies of trees that filtered the light, and at night filled with little twinkle lights that really helped animate the space. We designed street lights and street furniture that would layer these levels of information in that really made the place come alive, and that we designed a criteria for signage that was consistent throughout the place. And then some of the lessons that we learned about developing suburban retail centers. At the end of each primary building in the North and South Market were key significant restaurants. So the shops in between on the first floor would be reinforced by these nodes on each end of the North and South Market. Quincy Market, with its Greek Revival colonnade facing Faneuil Hall itself, became an iconic facade that really created another gathering node at the end of that building. And we could create spontaneous concerts, although it appeared to be spontaneous but programmed, and another public gathering space of larger scale than the intimate spaces that were created along the North and South Marketplace. So the combination of the food courts that basically take you through the building, but then spill out in various places along that street, internal street, open out onto these plazas, and then all of these retail shops that line the first floor of these market buildings on the north and the south add small-scale retail, all unique, no national brands, all specialty kinds of retail that were meant to reinforce the overall ensemble of why people would come to Faneuil Hall. Likewise, on the second and third floor above the North and South Market were office space, which had these wonderful awning windows that you could open up and hear the jugglers doing their thing and the carolers and the whole animation of Faneuil Hall could be celebrated by people who had their office space there. I was lucky enough to have my office here for 10 years, both in North Market and South Market. And I experienced firsthand how wonderful it was, particularly on a Friday afternoon, when in the summer everything is open and all the windows are open, and the smells of the food stalls and the noise and the activity really celebrated the best of what New England has to offer in terms of a wonderful gathering place that celebrates Boston as a whole and also what it means in terms of urban design. The analogy of residential work that I do today really has its roots back into what I've learned about creating intimate outdoor spaces from Faneuil Hall. And I apply the same methodology about sense of place and rhythm and scale on the spaces I create between the buildings I design. This was the very first festival marketplace built in the United States. And after this project, we were involved in a second one in Baltimore at the Inner Harbor and a third in Miami called Bayside. And then many, many other developers in many other cities around the country have looked to this urban design model to revitalize their downtowns and really create a sense of place. In 2009, the American Institute of Architects bestowed its 25-year award on the project, celebrating the longevity and the accomplishments of Faneuil Hall Marketplace.